Many times students come to me and say, you know, you are a really good guitar teacher, and I really appreciate taking lessons from you. How could I get a job like yours? I want to be a guitar teacher too. And I tell them, you know, this is something that's very hard to find the path for becoming a teacher of any instrument. There are a lot of there's a lot of criteria and a lot of issues involved. One is you have to put a lot of time in really understanding everything that you're going to try to convey to other people. And I found that when I was taking lessons, I was always fascinated by, when I was young, I was always fascinated by knowing a little bit more about everything. It wasn't just enough for my teacher to tell me this is a major scale, this is how it worked. And my question would be like, well, why is that? Where did it come from? And so I always wanted to know the deep, deep roots of everything that we might be talking about. And luckily, I retained most of that as I progressed as a guitar student and went from being a beginning student to an intermediate student. And many years later, I maybe thought about entering the world of being an advanced guitar player. But the main thing that when people asked me about teaching them anything, so when younger kids would come up to me and say, "Hey Neil, can you show me how to do this?" I'd explain to them as best I understood something. And sometimes that was a little out of focus, but what usually happened was, as I started explaining it to them, it became much clearer in my head. And so this is something that teachers experience. The more you explain things to people, and especially explain the same thing to lots of different people, the better understanding of it you have, and pretty soon you have a very complete understanding of it. And that's what a great guitar teacher has to have, is one thing, a complete understanding of what they're trying to explain, and the answers to most of the questions that a student would have as to why does this work or why does this not work. The second thing you have to have, though, is the ability to understand that whether or not the student is getting what you're saying, whether they're comprehending it and whether they're getting whether the words you're saying are coming in their head and they're hearing what you're saying. And this is something that you have to learn as a teacher, is what do I have to say to this student for them to hear what I really want them to hear. It may not just be what seems obvious to me. There might be a couple of catchwords or very specific things you have to say to make them understand it. So the path towards becoming a good or great or even competent guitar teacher has a lot of detours you have to take and a lot of things you just have to learn. So in order to basically be a good teacher, you have to be a good student and make sure that you absorb everything out there around you.